TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, come on, baby, higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for the Midday Market Report with good friend and colleague, Mr. Andrew McInnis at McInnisPicks at WagerTalk, talking the weekend recap. CFL, how about them Edmonton Elks? 3 in a row, baby. Who would have thought? It's been forever since they've done that. There's a new sheriff in town in the CFL. But first and foremost, shout out to our proud sponsorships, WagerWire. If you haven't downloaded the app, shame on you. Head on over to Google Play, wherever you download the apps. It's free. I promise you this. Football in week 0. NFL in a couple of weeks will be a lot different if you download that app. Trust me on that. And, of course, Viva Tequila Seltzer. Shout out to CT Bets, the rest of that team and family. If you haven't tried their new brand, actually their new flavor, coconut, head on over to your local, I guess, I like to call them watering holes, but I guess that's a little old term here. Wherever you go watch the games or where you go to the package stores, wherever you buy your beverages, tell them JD from ECSI sent you. They'll take great care of you. So without further ado, the co-host, the star, Mr. Andrew McInnis.
You are the star, my friend. How are you, Jeff?
I'm doing great. It's been a lost weekend. 2 food truck festivals, one in Buzzards Bay, our first year there. Historic numbers. It was just at Mass Maritime Academy, and it was crazy. And then we came back home, regrouped, and went up to New Hampshire yesterday, to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Cisco Brewery, and had a great time here. Back in the saddle. I feel like I lost a couple days trying to catch up to speed. How was your weekend, Andrew?
As far as the action was concerned, it was very low volume, which ended up being a good thing, Jeff. And there's no better feeling than that. I sent out this massive tweet talking about some bets I wasn't able to get down on because the numbers had moved in the CFL game. And I'll tell you what, the BC Lions number and that over, I'm happy I wasn't a part of it. And my initial number with you was the under I liked on Monday before Rourke got picked up, and then I liked the over. And anyway, happy that all didn't work out because I didn't, I would have lost both of them. Went 1-1. But personal wise, I was in a 4-hour volleyball tournament on Saturday. I'm sure you can probably see it right here. I've got my light on me. Usually I look pale as a ghost, but I have the craziest hat tan ever. I'm like, it looked like a big farmer's tan. It was the time of my life. Felt like a kid. It was a pairs tournament, so we were out there in the sun. And then I just spent some time with some good friends watching the UFC on Saturday night. And it's always nice when you don't have to, as you say, scratch the itch and you don't have that much action on the event. You can just watch and enjoy. And that's what we did. We had a nice meal and and watch the fights. So, and I wasn't stressing very much because I didn't really have much action down this weekend, which was really nice.
Well, it's funny. You talk about low volume. I went, took a look at our week going into yesterday. We were 4-2, up a couple of units. I threw out a dud on Sunday. I've said it to you at length. I'll say it again to anyone watching and listening that wants to pay attention. Cy Ray, I call him on Milwaukee. And this guy, it just doesn't matter. I don't know why. Hit me over the head with the dummy stick. I'll give you the lock, and I don't use that word lock. I will guarantee you I will not go for or against that gentleman the rest of the year. I'll see you in 2025. He shuts down the Guardians like they were silly putty, and they were. So we end the week at plus 1.25 units. Hey, it's profit. It's envelope Monday. We just take that tip. Go take the wife out for a nice lobster roll and steamers and have a good time there. But I'm excited to get into this week. As you said, last weekend, UFC. Was it? How do we call it? DPP takes care of Israel as, and now people are trying to, take away from him. Maybe he wasn't as good as we thought. There's always the naysayers out there. CFL. What did I see in this week in the CFL? Last weekend in the CFL. Edmonton 3-game winning streak. Maybe, just maybe. A little dose of reality maybe this weekend. We'll get to that, of course. You talked about Rourke coming as the savior. What did my eye see? Tried to make a little too much happen. He was forced under center, and you could see him just holding on to the ball, just trying to till something happened. It's going to take him a couple weeks to get back into rhythm there. What'd your eyes see?
Jeff, first of all, I got to say, 1-1 weekend, but it feels like it was a 1-10 weekend because the weight of the world for me, I put all the pressure on myself with that big play Friday night, and the Rough Riders go down. That one was tough because, well, you don't like to be personal with plays, but as you know, whether it's NHL or whatever it may be, I'm always supporting guys that are from the area where I live. And, well, unfortunately, the kicker for Saskatchewan went 3 for 7, I think it was, 3 or 4 from 7. Had his worst career day pretty much. There were a lot of drop passes, some weird plays in that game. But I saw Trevor Harris look like the old Trevor Harris, and that's one thing we can take moving forward. I can come on here and pout about losing that game and that play, but if that's the way I'm going to lose it, then you know what? I'll kind of tell myself I was kind of on the right side there. But Trevor Harris back and healthy, and you know what, Jeff? I love that they didn't rush him back. I love that they didn't, rush him to come back to play. They waited for a good spot. They waited to get him at home. They waited when it was actually a really meaningful matchup, and it was, of course, against Montreal. I learned that Hamilton just has problems. And, Jeff, a lot of times people talk about August being a very profitable time for baseball, early September before the postseason begins, finding teams that are just donezo and then betting against them. Well, the CFL is similar to that. I think that there's going to be teams that will cover for you, and you can make money with that. But there's also going to be teams that you're going to be able to get good prices on. And I think that Edmonton versus Hamilton was the don't overthink it game of the week. That was the game where, you'd have to really do a lot of convincing to yourself to explain why you like Hamilton in that spot if you did. So, no Trey Ford, no problem. MBT gets the job done. And, hats off to you, because even though Trey Ford wasn't in there, you mentioned that the running game has gotten a lot better for Edmonton. And I can't stress enough how important it really is in the CFL for that to make a difference. Point to mention about Hamilton, they fire their defensive coordinator and they bring in Chris Jones, the former head coach of Edmonton. This to me, look, I was a little bit younger when Chris Jones was coaching at his highest points, and to really know how great I guess he was, Jeff. But to me, it's kind of like the old boys club in the NHL. Like, it's time for some new guys. Like, is this guy going to coach for every 9 team and all 9 teams in the CFL before his career is done? I just find that kind of weird. The Edmonton Elks had one of the worst defenses in the league, and yet he's going to go help Hamilton's defense. I'm not sure how he's going to do that, but that one was a bit weird to me. And overall, I think that when you look at the game we saw with BC, and we'll talk about that more when we preview their game this week, but I just think that the contrarian approach has been so strong in the CFL. And, shame on me for not being like, hey, let's just do the same thing we've been doing. Wait till the money comes in and go against them. But, I just think that there's a difference between NFL and CFL. And I think what really wasn't put into account a lot more was the guy really hasn't been a starting quarterback in a long time. And that's just the reality of it. When you're being a journeyman and you're trying to crack a roster in the NFL, and you're collecting those paychecks even as a third stringer, you're not playing games, and you cannot replicate gameplay in practice. And I think it really goes to show, Jeff, that there's a difference between the American game and the CFL game. And they call him Kid Canada here on TSN. I'm not sure how I feel about that nickname, but there definitely is a difference between Canadian football and CFL football. And the whole entire pregame show, what were they hyping up? You mentioned it yourself. This guy gets rid of the ball very quickly. His time in the pocket, he's very decisive. Well, it was about the exact opposite of that. And some might say that's what 3 days of practice will do to you.
He was just really just trying to make something happen. He really was. And I want to circle back to what you were talking about on Friday. And this is what I've said a lot. And I want you to, add this to your arsenal. You're on the right side, just wrong result on Friday. You were definitely on the right side there. Again, this is one of the best historically, numbers say it, kickers in the CFL, and he just had one of those days where some outside looking in would be like, who'd you get the bag from, kid? Because, man, he whiff. I'm just like, I'm watching it right in front of my eyes. And if you got late to the party, this team was going up and down, moving, wheel them out. I mean, you turn one or two of those misses, even in the touchdowns, it wasn't even a debate which was the right side there. And even the missed field goal to take it into overtime, I'm like, Jesus, you got 9 lives here now. Just make the field goal, kid, and let's get it to overtime. So, again, right side, wrong result, definitely there. Again, now we move into, I think I was a week ahead of myself last week. We're into week 12 now this week, correct?
Right. And real quick, Jeff, I want to say that I was talking to Bobby, who I do the shows with on Tuesday, and I actually, unfortunately, didn't really get to watch a lot of the game. I was being antisocial a little bit when I was out with a bunch of friends, popping the game on my phone. But at what point in your experience watching football does the coach stop sending out the kicker? Because from what I've heard, that there were multiple points that they could have gone for it on third down, but they chose not to. At some points, why not kick the ball as a punt? Why not pin them? Why not get the CFL 1 point? Why not go for it on third down? Like you said, I don't know if his girlfriend dumped him, if he had a bad day the night before, a bad sleep, but it just was not going well. Is part of that on the coach as well? Because it seems to me like there's a lot that went wrong.
Well, the hardest part I have watching CFL and trying to use my eyes in the market and then correlate it, not just to the NFL or college football, but just in general, is I see the way they line up. In other words, they give them, so when you're 3rd and 1, I don't care if I'm on my 25. That's a go. I mean, other than the most stupidest play I've ever seen in the CFL, 3rd and 1, and the quarterback takes a snap and he's going to the right the whole time to the trying to find a hole. It's almost like they were trying to sweep. I'm like, 3rd and 1 in the CFL, you just take the snap, you look left, look right, and you just move forward.
Go up.
This guy is like trying to. Well, nope. And then the whole line just came and they lost 3 yards. So I think it was more of a bad coaching and not wanting to lose trust in the kicker. You miss one, you move on. You miss two, you move on. Because they kept moving the ball and he kept saying probably to himself, at some point, kid, you're going to have to stop missing here and you got a chance to win that game for us, which he had a chance to tie the game. I'm just going to take it as a bad game for the kicker and the coach, and we move on there.
Jeff, Brett Luther, my uncle went to school with his uncle. My cousin went to school with him. I watched him in high school. I watched him in university. He's someone that I've watched make big kicks almost his whole career. I should be a Saskatchewan fan just because of how much I like cheering for guys from my hometown. I've never seen him do that. I've done a podcast with him, with Mayflower, and he talked about how mentally strong it takes to be a kicker and how you got to shake it off and get on to the next kick. And I'm really excited to see what goes on in Toronto this coming week, because you know what? All the eyes are going to be on Chad Kelly. And you remember, Jeff, what happened? We just talked about it a few days ago, or not even a few days ago, yesterday, with Nathan Rourke, when the entire pregame show was about one guy. I'm curious to see what happens with the betting odds, but I'm curious to see how this Argos team looks, because I think that Lowther, Trevor Harris, and this Riders team could be in to play spoiler.
Well, it's kind of funny because it's the first Monday in forever. This shows you how much action, because we're coming into week 0 college football, and there's a lot more coming into play with the NFL preseason. First time I've turned on Wager Talk on a Monday, and I got all 4 games with team totals. So they're like, come on, boys, we got a window open for you. Let's go. So I'm going to go right into Saskatchewan at Toronto, an opening number of Toronto 2.5 with a 50 and a hook. Currently at DraftKings 2.5 still with a 50 and a hook. It has moved to 3 at the Heritage. Team totals, Toronto team total 26 and a hook. Juiced under -130. Saskatchewan team total 23.5, juiced over 130. It's a perfect example. Vegas is telling me 27-23 here. That's what they're telling me immediately.
I think it's a real big example, Jeff, of what have you done for me lately. And, you know, this Argos team, we will mention coming off the bye week, which is very convenient as they always plan it out, you know. With their big quarterback coming back. They have been a win one, lose one team. You know, they win against the Stamps, lose against the Stamps, win against the Bombers, lose against the Ticats, win against the Alouettes, lost against the Rough Riders. You know, to me, this team has lacked utter consistency. And to me, I look at their defense, I don't trust it. Their offense, they're getting Chad Kelly back. That's great. And you know, I've definitely been on record saying maybe the Rough Riders defense was overrated and some of those statistics were overrated, but the bend don't break style is still kind of there for them. They make teams kick field goals. They make teams have trouble and have to make really nice plays in the red zone to convert 6 and not 3. So when I look at this game, you know, instantly I think the team total is where I want to go, but also based on what I saw from Rourke yesterday, I'm half tempted to look at Saskatchewan first half. Look, Chad Kelly is a great player, but let's not forget what happened to him in the conference finals against Montreal last year. Multiple interceptions, trying to do too much. What does everybody say about Chad Kelly? The guy's got an ego. The guy can't stay off social media. The guy is all about himself. So I'm curious to see. You talked about it with Rourke trying to force stuff. What's Kelly going to be doing as far as forcing stuff? He's not coming back to the game to throw a 5-yard pass. He saw what Dukes was doing. I'm interested to see what goes on with this one, but I do think that the Rough Riders are a play to me. I think, Jeff, that we may be able to get a better number than we have right now. That's my forecast. We'll see if I'm correct or not. Saskatchewan obviously holding their own in the West, but I think that people will even though we already know Chad Kelly's playing, and I keep on posting this on Twitter, not to be arrogant, but the CFL is going to make a post in like 2 days saying, breaking news, Chad Kelly's starting. But we all know, like if you follow any of the beat reporters, they've said he's starting. So he is starting. He's taking first team reps. I think it's a go if we get +3, especially +3.5. We'll see which way this moves.
I will say in Kelly's defense, and what we've talked about Mr. Rourke and what he looked like and the expectations leading up to the game and then the facts after the game, this is actually the perfect defense for him to get his feet wet, because they're going to allow him to go 20-20. It's going to be, is he going to accept the field goal or how many turnovers is he gonna throw because he wants the touchdowns. They'll let him go 20-20. They don't have a problem with that. Trust me, you know that. Everyone that follows this show knows the bend don't break defense is coming. And it's, can we leave the ego on the sidelines, Mr. Kelly, or are we gonna, no pun intended here, pull a Nathan Rourke here and not only get, stampeded here, whatever you want to say here, because if he leaves the ego at the sideline, his numbers at the end of the game, I think, going to look pretty damn good. Hey, he was, what a return for Mr. Kelly. 23 for 27 for 333 and 6 field goals and 2 touchdowns. You know what I mean?
I absolutely do. And you look at Saskatchewan and some of the scores they've had recently, they have been giving up some points lately. But again, let's talk about that missed kick that led to a touchdown or led to some points for Montreal last week. Some of the gaps that were allowed. Davis Alexander late in the game, tiptoeing his way to a first down to the end zone. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that went on in the past few games for Saskatchewan that were definitely preventable. But for the Argos here, we'll go back and look at the last game that they played against the Riders, giving up 30 points. But most importantly, the Rough Riders with Shea Patterson, only 192 yards throwing. So, the Rough Riders had success. And this is a thing I have to admit, because I've been hard on backup quarterbacks, but I will say that Saskatchewan, they at least were a little bit more, they changed their game plan to their backup quarterback. They didn't try to make Shea Patterson be Trevor Harris. You take a look at the rushing numbers. It was a great rushing game with A.J. Ouellette, Patterson running as well. Hickson was running. So for them to put up 30 points and for him to not even reach the 200 passing yard mark where I'm sitting is really impressive. So you throw Trevor Harris back in the mix, a guy that can throw the ball. I think it's going to be a little bit different here for this Argos team. And one thing I'll say, it's hard to get over these high totals. It really is. But if we take away yesterday's game, Jeff, a lot of the time, the highest totals have been going over lately and the lowest ones have been going under. It seems the games the CFL expects to have points. I mean, look at Hamilton, Edmonton. They couldn't have set that one higher. That one was going to go over if it was at 54.5, 55.5. It would be hard not to lean towards the over. Like you said, we're going to see some good plays here in this one. And I wish I could bet some field goal props in that game this week.
It's going to be interesting to see which way the numbers move. Again, at Heritage now, up to 3 minus 0.3. So again, the next move there will be back to 2.5 here. So we'll keep our eyes on there. Obviously, Friday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, I will be on your channel where we get some. Actually, that game, we'll be recapping that game. How's that sound?
Yes.
Hamilton at Winnipeg. Currently, Winnipeg -8 with a 49. Team totals here. Winnipeg 28.5 juiced under -135. Hamilton 20.5 juiced under -120. 2 quick notes here. If I was to play this game immediately, 2 things here. Hamilton team total under 20.5. I'll lay the 20 cents juice there, and then I will go to Winnipeg's team total over the 28.5, and I'll take the plus 115 there. That's what the numbers scream to me.
I find this one so interesting because are the Winnipeg Blue Bombers back, Jeff? Is this team back to life? I mean, you know how long the CFL season is? When you've got 21 weeks and you've got 9 teams, you can afford to have a slow start. And that's what happened with them, and they've gotten their act together. And you know what? They've gotten healthier. They've added players. Their run game's gotten better, and I feel like they've changed a little bit of how they play. At the start of the show, when we were talking about, I said this is the time of the year when we could make some real money in the CFL. If you're sitting right now and you feel that you've made money in the CFL, you're in a great position because a lot of times weeks 1 to 10 or 11 are the hardest. And now we think we can be in a good position. So you ask yourself, are you going to be able to make money on some bad teams or not? And, it's always funny because you find yourself ripping on a team one week and then the next week you find yourself wanting to bet on them. And when I look at this Hamilton team, I kind of want to bet on them, and I'll tell you why. The Bo Levi Mitchell drama is kind of making me want to bet on them because it's Jeff. How similar is this to the Edmonton Elks situation? We had Taylor Powell, we had Trey Ford waiting to get in, right? He doesn't get in forever. He gets in, gets hurt, and then MBT comes back and wins last week, right? So we saw Bo Levi Mitchell have a decent start to the year, making some plays. He's one of the highest passing yard guys in the league, but the defense was letting them down. Then he leaves a game. Taylor Powell looks pretty good, even though they lose. Taylor Powell starts the next game. He gets sent to the hospital with a head injury. Then Bo Levi comes in, throws some garbage time. It was almost like a complete reversal. Like the backup the previous week came in and made some plays. This week, Bo Levi comes in and makes some plays. I think at this number, this is kind of like a, hey, Bo, are you still the man here? What kind of guy are you? Because if there's ever a game this guy is going to be focused, lasered in on, and a backdoor cover, I think this one could be it. But I will say 1-9. If I don't bet it, I hope you all do. 1-9. Bombers under the total, over-under record. This team continues to go under. And a lot of times, I will say, I'm sure you'd agree with me, unders and dogs correlate a little bit. And you're going to give me 8 points with a team here? I think I'll take the dog.
And I think there's a little overreaction on both sides of the market here, meaning we remember what we saw last, and this Hamilton team is struggling. And I think people have been waiting for this Winnipeg team. Are they where they were last year in the Grey Cup final? No, they're not. But they have taken themselves off the mat. And now you're getting into that second half of the season where it's going to be interesting to see the books. Are they starting to get whacked with Winnipeg Monday? They're back. Here come the Grey Cup, runner-ups here. Or is this one of these teams that just keeps eating money and people ripping up tickets? Because there's going to come a point where if that keeps happening, then we're just going to fade them to the off to the sunset, and then the books are going to try to find another team. Who can we overinflate? Maybe it's the Elks, which they haven't overinflated because obviously they're playing Montreal here.
And I'm curious how much crazier some of these numbers can get, Jeff, throughout the season. Like whether you're betting on Montreal or whether you're betting against Hamilton, how big can some of these numbers get? Like what happens if, just to go back to Hamilton, what happens if they lose by 14 points here? What's the deal with them moving forward? Do we start seeing some ridiculous spreads like we were seeing with the Elks the past few years? How quick do you think the markets will adjust to that?
No, they will become the Elks of the past. And I really think this is a big week. Hey, if this final score is Winnipeg 38-10, we do have this year's Elks of the past. I think this is a big week for both sides here.
Jeff, I got to stop the CFL for a second. We got a crazy announcement. Maybe it's not that crazy for anybody else besides a Montreal Canadiens fan. Patrick Laine has just been announced a Montreal Canadian. I am shocked right now. I am shocked. Live on the show, I've got my phone blowing me up because my friends hate the fact that he went to the Canadiens because I'm the only one that's a Montreal fan out of my entire friend group. Nobody, not even all the Montreal analysts, none of the talking heads, TVs, radio, journalists, a lot of these guys said it will not happen. I've listened to more Habs radio shows and YouTube stuff all summer. I cannot believe it. I have not heard or seen what the trade back is, but Patrick Laine is a Montreal Canadian, and I understand the rebuild is there. But for everybody out there, and hopefully Noah can clip this, this speeds up the rebuild in a big, big way. I'm very excited.
Well, I'm giving you this because hockey's right around the corner. We're getting the fall schedule together. We're talking moving our Mondays to Tuesdays because hockey will be back before you know it. Our Fridays to Thursdays because that's a big game slate. Who knows? We might be doing some live hockey on Saturdays. Wink, wink.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it. I'm ready. Sorry for that, Jeff. I had to get it out. I'm ready for the BC and Ottawa talk, but that is like, of course, it's when I'm live on air, and of course, it's when everybody gave up hope that this would happen. I am dying to know what the return is on this, but I'm excited.
Well, we'll speed up the process so you can dig in and get cracking there. BC Ottawa on Saturday, opening number of BC -1, Ottawa 40 under over 49.5. BC team total 25 and a hook over -125. Ottawa 23.5 juiced under -125. Initial thought, what we talked about pre-show here, what we're talking about right now, we needed to get the feet wet. I was specifically keeping my eyes on Mr. Rourke. Great arm. Listen, I'm not taking anything away. Okay, he just needed to get his sea legs in, and I thought he got his sea legs in, and he took a beating trying to get those sea legs and get back and round himself into form. I'm going to say this honestly. I think it's going to take him 2 more quarters. I wouldn't be shocked if Ottawa is leading at the half. But I actually do like the BC money line here because I think after 6 quarters, it's now the game will slow back down. I could see a BC Express here finally waking up. I could see them winning the second half and winning this game. 25.5, again, do they score 24 or less? I would stay away from that team total because I think it's going to move down. I think you're going to get that 24.5 or 24. I like the BC side here, and I actually would lean to the under 49.5 just on Monday here, Andrew.
Well, I mean, with how the offense has looked right now, not with or without Rourke, I could not blame you for taking any unders between these two teams. See, the problem is, Jeff, it's a 9-man league, and as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, you find yourselves bashing and then saying good things about one team between 1 week and the next, right? And this Red Blacks team, here's the deal with them. Number one, I like them as a dog. Number two, this team's home record can't be sustained. I don't believe it. And I know that those are everyone's famous last words. This can't continue. The do effect. I get it. The only thing that stopped them from stopping their home streak was a tie. And sure, they could have won it and the command center stopped that, and then they could have lost it and the command center stopped that due to pass interference. Their last home game ended in a tie. But you know, Jeff, every week it seems like I come on the show to you and I list off a team schedule and I try and explain why they've overachieved. Let me try and do that and kind of make my case for the Red Blacks here. They gave up 29 points on a Thursday night against the Stampeders, who have been rather inconsistent themselves. Then they have a tie at home, play the Stampeders again, back-to-back games against the Elks, and then they played a Bombers team that got their first win of the season. So the Elks, when they were struggling, before they had their first win, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers got their first win against the Red Blacks, and then a Calgary team that most people's power ratings had them slated to be a bottom 3 team in the league. I like what you said about Rourke. It might take a quarter and a half, 2 more quarters for them to get going, but I think there needs to be a little more respect given towards Winnipeg's defense from everybody, because I've come on the show and talked about their under streak, and I didn't respect it because I liked the over. I leaned that way. I think that they get the job done. I think -1's the way to go. But to your point, or excuse me, I think that to your point, it might take some time. So this is not one where I'd want to look to bet them early. This is one I think we could look towards seeing, some punts, some field goals, kind of a slow start. But the explosive plays that they have in their threshold, I think, will be the biggest difference. And let's not forget, Drew Brown is still injured. Jeremiah Masoli might have looked great against Calgary's defense. How will he look against BC this week? That's the big difference. I mean, when you've got Jeremiah Masoli versus Nathan Rourke, a little bit different than Zach Collaros against Nathan Rourke. And you also have Nathan Rourke that had only a few practices, that had his first game that he's played in 2 years. This to me is a bet on spot for BC, but it's also, we got to tip our hat. Ottawa, they flew over their win total like halfway through the season. I mean, you got to tip your hat. But at this point, we ask ourselves, is the market adjusting to them a little bit too much here? Are they getting a little bit too much respect?
I'm going to call it it's the Rourke theory again. I really do. We talked about once the announcement last week to actually play in a full game. Kind of sort of almost on the crap table here. You're betting on the come. I was off last week. I'm on this week. I saw enough with the eyes that I know, he and they will be ready. They had to sit in there, here. They get a week to get ready. I think you're going to see a whole different team. I don't have the schedule in front of me. Be interested in who they play next week as well. Again, I'm giving them 2 more quarters. If someone said to me, hey, I like Ottawa first half, I have no qualms about someone going to the window to play Ottawa in the first half here. I just think when the dust settles and the final gun blows, it's going to be Rourke and BC finding a way, whether it's a walk-off field goal, whether it's a walk-off touchdown. It might be close, but I think BC, when the dust settles, I like the BC money line here. It's probably right around minus 115. I would play BC money line today, and because I think when this goes off, I wouldn't be surprised if BC's minus 2.5.
This is one you want to get down on ASAP. I'm right there with you. This is an ASAP bet. This is one you don't want to wait on. And to your point about this spot here for Rourke, maybe getting your first win on the road isn't a bad thing. Maybe it would have been a good thing if Rourke's first start was a road game, then come back home. I don't care who you are, Jeff. Pressure is a thing, and there was a lot of pressure. Hey, it might not have been the NFL, but guess what? In the NFL, he was kind of playing with house money. But here, the expectations were through the roof. Now he gets to go on the road and do his thing. I feel pretty good about it.
Last game, Edmonton, Montreal. Edmonton, winners of 3 in a row, excuse me. And I'm telling you, this offense, they've scored now, well over 100 points the last 3 games in total. Books say not so fast. 7.5. Montreal opens up 7.5 point favorites. 51 and a hook. Currently at DraftKings, 7.5 with a 51 and a hook. Edmonton team total 20.5. Juiced over minus 125. Edmonton 30 and a hook. Juiced under minus 125. Something's got to give here. The team totals aren't adding up here. There's a 10-point difference right there. I guess I would read this. I'll have to go on record and say I'm reading this 27-20, but the under-over, the team totals, something's not adding up here, Andrew.
I'm with you on this, and I think that the Cody Fajardo stuff is the big story to me in this one here, Jeff. But at the same time, Davis Alexander has been, I don't even think serviceable is the word to use because he's been that much better than that. I've been using that word a lot lately, but he's been better than serviceable. But the run game to me, I'll go back to it, has been so strong with Hickson and AJ Ouellette back last week. Trevor Harris, when we saw, not Hickson, that whole crew with the Elks, but MBT being in there, I think, does kind of slow down their offense because Trey Ford doesn't have that ability to move his legs. And so because of that, I think that they take longer to march the field. And I also think that a little bit things are less risky with him. And I know that's going to get caught up and people are going to say, well, you're a big Trey Ford guy. How can you say that? If you notice, they take less shots downfield with MBT. They take longer to march the field with MBT. And with that, I kind of like it because I don't expect them to win this game, Jeff. I don't. But I expect them to cover the game. I expect them to hang around enough. And I think that with time of possession, I think that with some, third down plays, maybe second and longs that MBT can convert on with some of these offensive players that have really gotten going lately, they can do enough. Some people, you got to ask yourself, when's that flat spot going to come again for Montreal? Was it last week? Because maybe it wasn't. Because they were able to kind of like overcome it. But now here's their record. Their last handful of games is going to be Hamilton, Saskatchewan on the road, now home to Edmonton. The question is, who cares about this game more, and how much does Montreal care about humiliating the Edmonton Elks? And I think the Elks do just enough to hang around here. The 7 and the hook is very important versus just getting the 7. I'm with you. If the Elks give me 23 points, they cover this game, absolutely. If they give me 20, we'll be sweating a little bit.
I was going to ask you this. Just the way the Elks offensively have been playing, we know their woes on defense, or they do have brain farts with everyone else here in the CFL, NFL, it doesn't matter. My question is, do they come in there with a chip on their shoulder, roll out the ball, and look Montreal mano and say, hey, first one to 30 wins this game. Let's lace them up.
I think it all depends on the success they can have defensively to start. You know, if they can get 1 or 2 stops, if they can even turn the first drive. I know this might sound funny, but if they can even, get a good stop in their own end and force a field goal when everybody in the stands at that moment thinks a touchdown is coming, it will help them big time. You know, if they can finish the first quarter even only down 3 or tied, to prove to them that they do not have to trade touchdowns, that will be the key for them to be able to decide. I think we both know it doesn't benefit them that way, because Montreal probably has the stronger defense, and they'll say, hey, let's do it. I'll trade points with you guys. But if they can get stops and keep the game within reaching distance, then they can utilize that run game we've been talking about, which will benefit them. The problem is in the CFL is that some coaches and teams panic very quickly. And as you've seen with the 3 downs and the 2 and out, it's so easy to come back because, you put some points on the board, 2 and out, get a stop, put points on the board again. All of a sudden, it only takes a few minutes. But sometimes if you go down 10 points, these coaches will panic and immediately abandon the run game. And the second a bad team abandons the run game, a good defensive coordinator on the other side will make life hell for the quarterback. So the run game is huge, and I think that MBT actually might be the guy that's better against Montreal. And I'm a Trey Ford supporter just because of his decision-making. We don't need any acrobatics. We don't need anything fancy. We just need smart decision-making, march the field, and cover the point spread. Hey, some people say good teams win, great teams cover. Well, hey, I just need you to be a great team and cover for me this week. I don't think you're going to win, Edmonton, all right?
Well, Andrew, I do know this with the breaking news, and we're going to let you go here. Obviously, you will remember where you were to this day for the next years to come with the breaking news here. The scroll has been going the whole time. Everyone here, standing room only. Thank you, guys. Go find Andrew, obviously, on Twitter at McInnisPicks, and go get all his work at Wager Talk. But we always end here with a nice little 7-yard button hook. What do you have at Wager Talk, Andrew?
And Jeff, I just got to say, I apologize if I interrupted the flow, but it has been so long since my team has actually been active in free agency and not just drafted players. So it's so nice to be, we'll see how it goes, but to pick up a guy like that is huge. And I can't wait to talk hockey with you. For me right now, Wager Talk, Jeff, the one thing I'll promote, we have a CFL and MLB special package together. So we always preach the long term. So anybody out there watching right now interested in my CFL plays, we're going to throw in MLB, which, as you know, Jeff, is very low volume for me. But I'm on a 13-2 combined run with both those sports. So, hey, last 15 plays, both CFL and MLB together, we've had a lot of success. And I think that, the best part about it, if we do the show on Monday, we do the show on Friday here with your channel and my channel, we're breaking down the lines. But when you sign up, you're going to get the play sent right to your email, right to your mobile device, and you'll be able to get the best line possible. That's what I try and do for my clients, and hope you guys will join me, and we'll make some money and then jump right into hockey season.
5 o'clock in less than an hour. Myself, Riley Magnuson, back for the closing bell. We'll recap the weekend. We'll talk about the slate in MLB there. Tomorrow, unsure of tomorrow, of course, Wednesday, Brady Kannon, week 2 of the FedEx Cup. Congrats to Brady Kannon. Outright winner here on the show with Hideki Matsuyama. Thursday, Gamblou will be back for the UFC. The big weekend there. As Izzy goes down, and he kind of leaned that way. He knew that was happening. Plus, he had a few other winners on that card. Friday, we'll be back, 3 p.m. Eastern. The NCAA Insiders, Matt Grissom, Quentin Mills, back to talk some SEC and college football for Week 0. And, of course, I will be back with Andrew at 11 a.m. Eastern on his channel there. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one, the only, Mr. Newsbreaker himself, who needs Barry Melrose when we got Andrew McInnis in the house at McinnisPicks. Everyone, thank you so much. Come join us again in less than 1 hour. See you soon.